this movie exists is worth knowing up top. And it's because of the actor who plays Zach, our new best friend with Down syndrome. Zach Gottsagen, or Gottsagen, was in a acting club, an acting class for people who were disabled. This is in real life, maybe about 10 years ago. And the two directors went to this acting club and saw what talent he had, saw that he had this real screen charisma, this smile, this energy, this humor. And they said, we want to make a movie around you. We haven't made a movie before, but we're going to make it happen. And I think knowing that, you can see it. Like seeing him on screen, you go, I want to be his friend. I want to hang out with him. I want to have my own secret handshake, left, right, hand, explosion. Because he just has that energy. And so what they did is they shot a 5-minute proof of concept. And what that means is that it's essentially a scene or two from the movie as they see it to show to actors and producers, this is what we want to do in the film, if you give us the money to make it. And then by happy circumstance, accident, they managed to get the likes of Dakota Johnson, who was in the 50 Shades of Grey movies, and obviously is the daughter of Don Johnson, and all these other names to get on board because they were so taken, they were so charmed by Zach. So a lot of the reason why this movie is great isn't the directors, isn't the professional actors, isn't the story. It's all built around him. And I love that. I love that this was made because somebody had this X factor and they thought we have to find a way of fulfilling his dreams. And what he wanted to be is a Hollywood star. He said, I'm not going to get the opportunity. Can you make my dreams come true? I want to be Brad Pitt, basically. Right? And they said, okay, well, that's not going to be possible, but we're going to make something for you. And they turned that story of him wanting to become a Hollywood star and they changed it into the wrestler idea. So that's where the whole I want to be a wrestler thing came from. He was a young guy who wanted to be a wrestler. He was about 31 when they shot it. And a lot of my favorite bits in the film are just him improvising. So hopefully this will really surprise you because it pleased me to discover this. Do you remember the scene when they're wearing the watermelons as helmets? They cut it out, they eat, they're smiling and they're happy, and they put the helmets on. And they're just running around and he's falling over and it's this whole scene. It's in a really fun montage. That was just because Zach said, wouldn't it be fun if we put them on our heads? Not scripted, not storyboarded. He just went, let's do it. And they popped it on and they kept the camera going. That's what they did. Another good example of him just coming up with stuff is, what are my 2 rules? The first rule is this: do not slow me down, right? And when he said, what's rule number 1? He improvised. He was meant to say what rule number 1 was, which is don't slow me down. But he improvised, party! And that's all in the film, the whole party thing, that's all him. And my final one of these, just to give you another little bit of movie tidbit trivia, is the title of the film is, as you know, The Peanut Butter Falcon, which without a doubt is a little bit weird. That's because Zach just came up with it. It had another name, it had another script title. It could have been, you know, Zach and Gia. I always forget how to pronounce his name properly. Zach and Shia go on an adventure, but it's called The Peanut Butter Falcon, and the name of the wrestler is called The Peanut Butter Falcon because he came up with it. That's how much this movie is based around him. So, without any more waffle, let's talk about it. Does anybody want to put their hand up and say, what did they like about the movie? What did they not like about the movie? How does it make them feel? Any thoughts at all? Got no takers? I'll tell you a bit more about how... Oh, Liz, got a thought? You might want to press the unmute button there, Liz, sorry.
Yeah, hello there.
Oh, Hasmuk's got in.
Yes, yeah, I was very impressed by the film, and I thought it was about Zach coming to realise that he didn't want the life that had been imposed on him, and that he worked out what he wanted, and he was helped to get there. Basically, it was very empowering.
I entirely agree. I love seeing a movie which sees people who know what they want. And I think as an audience member, we always respond to characters that know that. And to see somebody who has had a tough life, whose parents have rejected him outright, that has been pushed into a corner of society, say, this is what I want, and I'm going to get it, is electric. And I think that combined with his own character, his own energy, is wonderful. And I think if it weren't him, it weren't as charming as he is. The idea of somebody turning around and going, actually, I'm going to help you. And then this other person says, no, I'm going to help you too. Might not be real, but I think there's something special about him. But no, you're quite right. It's about that, having a mission and completing it. What did you make, Liz, of that moment where towards the end of the film, there's a chance that he may not have been able to complete his dream, and the saltwater redneck says, I don't do the school anymore? How did that make you feel?
I should be able to recall that, but I don't think I can.
I'll just quickly remind everybody. So they finally get to the wrestling school. They've made it that far. And,
oh yeah.
And the wrestler goes, I don't do that anymore. That was a long time ago. And my heart every time just breaks.
Yeah.
I've seen it 4 or 5 times. I know what's going to happen. But the way Shia LaBeouf, and I think he is astonishingly good in this movie. I think he's not actually acting all that much. I know that sounds like an insult, but I don't mean it as one. I think he is a very damaged person, and I think he feels really messed up, and he is very much in a complicated situation. But when he says, I'm going to have to break his heart, and I know that's not on you, but could you give him a wave? Oh, it gets me. I really, really love it when you hear the thumping guitar out the radio and the car shoots up the drive, and you don't know where to look. You don't know whether you should look at Zach and see how happy he is, or look at Shia LaBeouf's character, who's also beside himself with joy. Anyway, Liz, if you had any thoughts on those moments, please do tell me, otherwise I'll just keep talking.
I wanted to watch it through again. I only watched it through once, but I remember Zach lifting the man high, and that's a great impression.
I really found that, please guys do chip in on this front, but there's something called magic realism, which is a very easy way of basically describing a world or a scenario in a book or a film, which gives a pocket of impossibility room to breathe. And when he does that atomic throw, you're so swept up in the way the story's been told that you're willing to believe it.
Yeah.
And I find it works every single time. I keep thinking he's going to throw him into the bad guy. Did anybody feel he was going to do that?
Yeah, I thought as well. Yeah.
And then they do that switcheroo where they go, no, that's not how the world works. And the guy still gets him on the head. What did you guys, anybody else want to chip in about that final wrestling moment?
I really like the film.
Great.
It's something, I mean, his politeness, it was very good. Always please, thank you. And I think given the opportunity, it doesn't matter what difficulties person has, and he can achieve. He achieved it. And not thinking just, this person got some sort of condition or disability, put them in, they don't know anything, and they will do whatever we tell them to do because we know the best.
Yeah.
But that's not in reality. Everyone has got their own ability. Doesn't matter however. But look at him. He couldn't even swim. He was so sad. But he took that opportunity and right support.
Yeah.
And he was able to swim. And giving him that encouragement and prompt, and he lifted that wrestler up and threw him. And I think that was fantastic. I really, really enjoyed that film. Looking at normal than other film. We always see family story, all the singing, but this was real story. that really touched. Very, very good.
I'm so glad you love it. I'm so glad you've reacted so positively to it, because to me, it's such a joy to recommend it to people. You know, you get a bit excited where you go, you're going to love this song, or you're going to love this book. That's how I feel about this film. I just go, it's a winner.
Yes.
And I love seeing people who are being, and you see this in Forrest Gump and other movies like it, or children who are misunderstood. I don't know if you've ever seen Wonder. There's another movie I might recommend, where people are patronized and they're put into a box and they're told, you're like this.
Yeah.
And then you get to see them just be free and just be themselves. And I think one of the glories of cinema, at the risk of sounding too snooty, is it's an empathy machine. It makes you empathize in a way that no other medium can. It's more than books. I think the only thing that can really change it is, like, rival it might be a radio show or a podcast where the audio, where the voice, where someone's thoughts are in your ears. But cinema makes you feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And when he catches that fish, remember that bit where he just grabs it with his hand?
Yeah.
It's like you've done it.
Yes.
It gives you that energy and that excitement of, oh, yes, and he deserves it. And it's the underdog getting lucky and doing the right thing. And I really like that you brought up the politeness, because I think that's, if you view this as a superhero movie, he's got the strength, but he does have that politeness and that ability to be sweet and kind and say, would you like to be my friend?
Yeah.
I think I get a kick out of seeing him say what we think. We're all hampered and manacled and shackled to society's expectations. And he just goes, I want you to be my friend. Will you be my friend? And that's just, it's like a drug. Imagine if you had a nice chat with somebody at the bus stop. You're getting on great, and you like their watch, and the book they're reading is one you've read recently. And you just said at the end of your chat, do you want to be friends? It'd be marvelous. It would be, I mean, it would never happen. You'd be viewed as a weirdo, but I love it. Anyway,
You
Hasmukh.
come to my party.
Yeah, please come to my party. Yeah. And when he's angry, he says, you're not coming to my party.
You're not coming. Yeah. I love it.
Anyway, Hasmukh, I interrupted you earlier. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. I really love this film, honestly. I wouldn't mind watching it again. It's got everything in it. It's got emotions, it's got adventure, comedy, everything in there. I loved it, honestly. Really, really. It's nice of to choose this one from the last. Quite a lot of difference from the last two one we saw, but this one,
I'm so glad.
you would just continuously watch it. You wouldn't like to stop it and
Never. There's no bit where you want to make a cup of tea.
No.
And
Zach is wonderful. That guy.
So great.
It shows how people with disabilities, they've got so many ability inside. But as you say, the culture or the society stops them going forward.
Did you enjoy the scene where Sheila Buff's character is very frank with him and truthfully says, you're not going to be an Olympic swimmer.
No.
You're not going to go to the moon. And I love that stuff. It's like what I was saying earlier about the patronizing. He's just going, you can't do everything, but you still do loads. And isn't it nice to see the world framed within a positive angle? Rather than listing all the things you can't do, you give a couple, but then you go, but you're super strong. You're charming. You've got this energy about you, and seeing things with that positive light. And I think sometimes when you press play on a movie or watch it in a cinema, it lets you reset. And it reminds you again that loads is possible. So many things are possible. Whereas day to day, it can just seem like, better eat, better walk, better sleep, better, and movies let you just take a breath and reset. And this movie definitely does that. I want to bring up another moment of magic realism, which is when Sheila Buff's character is teaching Zach how to shoot a gun.
Yeah.
Who else loved that bit where he flies backwards?
Yeah, I don't know.
So fun. Now, to peel back the curtain a bit, the way they do that is they use he's harnessed around his chest, and there's like a wire, like a thick wire, which they later CGI out, right? And then there's a bed, like a mattress on the floor, and they just yank him. And that's how they make that work, and then they CGI out. And, you know, this is an indie movie. This has cost nothing to make. But they still thought, well, this is worth doing because we think visually this will look so great. I want to tell you guys a little story about how certain people got involved. Originally, it wasn't going to be Sheila Buff. It was going to be an actor called Ben Foster, who's an excellent actor. He's in a movie called Leave No Trace that I really recommend, and a bunch of other stuff. And he decided to pull out at the last minute because he realized that his wife was probably going to have her baby sooner than he thought. And with about 3 weeks to go, he said, I am so sorry I can't do this, but I reckon Sheila Buff will love it. So he picked up the phone and got Shia, right? And then Shia got involved and said, you know who'd be good for the brother role is my friend John Bernthal, who I did a World War II movie with called Fury. And then he came down the next week and did it for fun. A lot of people did this because they heard about Zach, saw the footage and went, I just want to be near this guy. I just want to be in his club. I want to go to his birthday party. Anyway, so he comes down and does a scene. And I know this movie is about fun and happiness, but I think another reason why it works so well is because you're seeing Sheila Buff's character get to be the big brother. He spent his life, his adult life, regretting what happened with his older brother. And I'm sorry if you saw this clearly and I'm patronizing you, which is the opposite of what you want when we're talking about Peanut Butter Falcon. But it is implied, if not directly told, that he is responsible for his brother's death in the car crash, right? You guys got that?
Yeah.
And I think because Shia has been through so much in his life, he's obviously had a terrible allergic reaction to fame. And he, if you may or may not remember, once went to a movie premiere wearing a paper bag over his head that said, I am not famous. Does that ring any bells? He now does performance art. He sits in a cinema for 3 or 5 weeks watching movies. He then goes to a log cabin in the middle of nowhere. He's really pushing the envelope artistically. And when this movie was being shot, he was arrested. This was in 2017. This was shot in Georgia and partly in North Carolina. And it was caught on videotape. Again, this was seen. This was in the news, in the press. And he credits Zach for helping him stay sober because he was drunk when he was arrested. And he said, Zach is like a brother to me. I speak to him most weeks, and he has helped me be a better person. And you can look this up yourself. I find it very emotional. I'm not saying what happened to Zach is, I don't know, losing a leg or something super, super serious, but something obviously happened to him emotionally to do with fame. There's something going on. And he has and had an alcohol problem. And to see this friendship, it's wonderful. I really recommend, if you can go onto YouTube, look up videos of them having interviews together. They are so very, very sweet. And it makes me well up a little bit just thinking about it, that someone's life has been rescued. The other thing, and I'm not going to go too long on this one, is that Zach is a devout Christian, and his faith has also helped Shia as well. But anyway, let's talk a bit about the final scene. Were you guys genuinely worried that Tyler may not have made it? How did you feel seeing his hand come over the car seat and grab her hand, her shoulder?
I'm happy for them and relieved to see him alive.
I keep thinking, oh no, oh thank God, because he's so beaten up.
Yeah.
He's so bruised. He looks like Mr. Bump from the Mr. Men, and worse. But that final scene's so lovely. But I want to ask you guys, do you feel like the love connection between Dakota's character and Shia's character necessarily works? Does it feel maybe a bit rushed?
The character's name?
Yeah, so the characters, so it's Tyler is Sheila LaBeouf, and Eleanor, who is the lady who's trying to catch them.
Yeah.
They seem to have this romantic relationship. And I was wondering whether you guys thought that was earned, or maybe there wasn't enough time spent on that.
Not enough time. Just quickly done.
I think it's very quickly done. I think the love stories between those two and the idea of her, you know, her characteristic is I've been widowed, and she's representative of following the rules, being tied up in the legislation, doing what you've got to do. And obviously I ask that leading question because I do think it's rushed, and I think that would be one of my faults with the movie. I don't think it quite gives it enough time, the flirtation, the love affair. Although, when we're talking about favorite moments, can we talk about the bit where they decide to swing off the, what's it called? Crane.
Crane, yeah.
Oh, it may not surprise you, but no stuntmen were involved. They just did that. And I love that feeling of these are genuine people having a genuinely good time. Anyway, I'm waffling. What are other good moments that stood out for you that we haven't brought up already?
I thought it was how they were respecting to each other. If you respect somebody, and you will get the respect back. How you treat, that's what you get. Because they were really complimenting each other. He was listening to him, and he was respecting. I thought that was good as well.
I think it taps into the American tradition of politeness, particularly in the South. Okay. Because you see a character, she's only there briefly, but it's the waitress that serves them in that final cafe. And she is so sweet and so happy and lovely. And you go, oh yes, there is good in this world. There are many lovely people, but you get to see this raw loveliness together between those two that makes all the difference. Even when, and it's to his credit, Sheila LaBeouf's character, Tyler, burns down like a dock, but we still love him. And that's an extraordinary achievement. And he says, I'm going to pay my debts. I'm going to go to Florida and I'm going to pay my debts. And I think, again, with cinema, we love seeing people own their mistakes, apologize, and make amends. Because it's something we all find difficult to do in real life. And now we don't see that on screen, but you know he's going to make it right. And that's something that really speaks to me anyway. Anybody else got other favorite moments? It could be the bit where they're dancing around drunk by the campfire. I particularly love the bit where he decides to eat his peanut butter with a stick. And there's just something so pure about that. Well, what else would I use? I could use my fingers. There's a stick here. We'll be fine. I like to think they genuinely did get drunk. I don't know, but I like to think. That's a really big moment for me, that one. And the other one was when they go to the blind man's house.
Yeah.
Did anybody ever really think they might be in danger?
Yeah. Redneck country.
Letting off shots almost immediately despite being blind. That was a moment. But there's some beautiful shots of just the location of the swamps, of the waterside. And the iconic moment that's on the poster is them on the raft with a sail. But there is a thriller edge to this film. You do get bad guys in it. Did you guys feel like the movie needed that? Or did you find it quite exciting?
Found it exciting, yeah. It spices up.
Just a little bit. They don't do it too much, do they? There's just that element of it that keeps things going. Did anybody else feel that when Zach has the gun as protecting them, I found myself going, yeah, shoot him.
I thought he would shoot him. I really thought he would do that.
But isn't it interesting that you're so in love with this guy? You've only known him for half an hour, maybe 45 minutes. That you're like, yeah, shoot the guy. Get him. Get him. I love him. Protect him at all costs. Kill that guy. And it's interesting to see Tyler getting to be the big brother, just takes the gun and says, you better go. You better go. Because I've seen what happens when he shoots and he flies backwards a few meters, and you don't want to see that again. Anywho. Oh, another couple of things. You know those wrestlers in the final scenes? A couple of them are real wrestlers. So if you're into your American wrestling, you'll notice, look, it's such and such and such and such with, you know, amazing names and all the rest of it. I was wondering if there's anybody who's maybe listening on the line that wants to chip in. I know there are a few people who aren't on camera. If you had any thoughts at all, I'm not even going to ask you a question. Even if you want to ask me a question about the film, just let me know.
Has he made any other films yet?
Frustratingly not. I think movies take a long time to get made at the best of times. And I think around the pandemic, it's just made things really, really difficult. I can recommend other movies that are of a similar, you know, pick me up, charming level. I think Wonder is definitely one of them. That's the story of a boy who is ashamed of the way he looks, and he wears a, I won't give away too much, but he wears a kind of astronaut's bubble around his head. It stars Julia Roberts and Owen Wilson, and that's very similar. It's very good. But no, neither Zach nor the directors have done anything yet. But I have my fingers crossed. Is there anything else I wanted to mention to you? Oh, here's another example of how Zach was so charming. The music in this film is brilliant. It's this mixture of bluegrass, bit of rock and roll, but it's a lot of kind of banjo plucking, that sort of thing. And that's because, again, they showed the footage and said, we've got these names attached. It's about this man with Down syndrome. And the music companies just said, we'll give it to you for a fraction of the cost. We'll give you, you know, £1 instead of 500, because that's how much people wanted to be part of this project, because it had that magic. But no, please go on.
Sorry. I think the character development of Zach was really profound during the movie, because like it's really hard to portray someone with a disability without coming across as like patronizing or condescending, and it's like they portrayed his character so well. Like it felt really funny and original without like the joke being directed to Zach. Like he was what made it funny, but not in a bad way. And I really admired that throughout the movie. It was like his humor was kind of very simple, but very profound at the same time. And it's it really just added to the likability of the whole movie, really.
I think that's very well put. I want to say two things off the back of that. Oh, well, three. One is thank you. Very well put. Second thing is, he is the lead of this film. Everyone else is supporting his performance. He is the star. And how often do you see a disabled person of any kind, size, shape, or hue, be the lead of a movie? It is so rare. So that in of itself is a beautiful miracle thing. And the comedy, I think, is from, we talked about the politeness. We've talked a bit about being direct and just saying what you feel. But I think he's more human than any of us. And it just opens up your heart. And he just is. There are no affectations. He's just real. And I think having a real person in the room with this energy is funny. And you see Sheila Buff having to play the straight man off him. I love it. I just love it.
I love how Zach kind of rescues Tyler from his own grief. Like he visibly brightens throughout the movie, and at first he was like really not willing to take on Tyler, no, to take on Zach as a friend, and then he begrudgingly accepts, and then it turns out to be the best decision he's made in a long time. You know, it's amazing to watch.
I agree. And the way they make that pivot is very interesting. Do you remember when he leaves him at the dock where the boys are swimming and diving? And then he goes, I'm leaving you here. I've done my job. I'm going to go get in this car, get in this truck, and I'm going to hitchhike where I'm going. The way they do it to make it not feel like a cynical decision to go and help him is they go, he's trapped. He can't get out. There are roadblocks. So he gets out and goes back. And then he sees those boys bullying him and telling him to jump. And it is inhumane and it's horrible. And the moment when I fall in love with the Tyler character is when he straight up punches that kid. Bam. It is an astonishing comedic moment because in most 99% of all situations, seeing a fully grown man clock out, I'm talking fist, face, floor, wham, a 10-year-old is a bad move. But there's something about, he knows that he can't swim. He knows that he'll drown. He knows this is bullying. And he knows that he's responsible. And he does what his brother would do. Wham. And that's when I just go, right, Tyler, you and me are friends. We're going to be great. And there is an element of cynicism, right? He knows that when he has that really funny scene when they go to the garage and he can only afford the peanut butter and like a sip of his drink. He realizes that having Zach helps him maybe not be spotted. Like it'll help, you know, he won't be just one guy. He realizes, oh, there's something about this guy. Anyway, it's just so delicately done. And it's so easy to imagine a more mainstream movie, making it schmaltzy, loads of music. Something that really stuck with me is, you know, those scenes where he's talking to his brother. There are never any, you don't hear them talk. And isn't it interesting how the movie doesn't actually spell it out? It just lets them, you can see they're brothers, you can see they're close, you can see he's the leader and he's the younger one. So anyway, I just think that's very nicely done. I interrupted you. Any other thoughts?
With a similar film, Dustin Hoffman, if you remember, Rain Man.
Rain Man, yes.
The whole movie.
I don't think it gets everything right. I think I think it's a great film.
Yeah.
I think if you look at it now in 2021,
Yeah.
there is some stuff there. I tell you what Rain Man does, which I don't love, is it was almost too successful. And it made people think that a Rain Man was someone who was always good at maths. So if you were like on a certain level of the spectrum, people would go, okay, you can count cards. Because it was almost just like too big. It was too successful. And Dustin Hoffman was so good at it. But I agree, it's very similar because you're seeing Tom Cruise's grumpy, chewed up by the system, cynical, the world owes me a living person learning who he is through his brother.
I can hear a bit of an echo or something.
Yeah, is somebody saying something? Which is a good thing, by the way. Please say more things.
I was going to say, I talked a bit at the beginning, but I was going to say I was quite interested in the labelling of Zach in his care home. But he'd come to believe the labels. I'd made a note, you know, when he said, I can't be a hero, I have Down syndrome, and I can't remember the other words now, but oh, I'm a retard, he said. He'd accepted that from the bullying care worker. But that's what some of the empowerment was about, I think. Learning to distinguish what's true about you and what isn't true about you. And it's a very hopeful film, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it makes me feel I could do anything. And I know a lot of movies pitch that, but this one
Yeah.
really makes me feel I could do anything. And I think hopeful is such a good word. And I think the power, and not a good power necessarily, it can be used positively and negatively, of labeling cannot be denied. If someone tells you enough that you're a certain thing, with all of the toxic associations with that word, not only does it hurt, not only do you feel bullied, but you believe it and it defines you. Like I live a blessed life, and to even pretend to know what that's like is embarrassing and maybe horrible to some people's point of view. But I think we can all sympathize with the idea of being told, you're a this, you're a that. Stay in your lane. You know, you're not a hero. When he says, I can't be a good guy, that's that speech we were talking about earlier when Sheila Buff goes, you're not going to be a swimming Olympian, but why can't you be a good guy? There's good guy in you. And maybe that's the best way of describing the magic of Zach, the person and the character, is that he is the purest good guy. He's chaotic good. He's just a fireworks factory on fire. He's just, and you can't stop watching because he's so lovely. Anyway, anyone else? I should also point out this is a 97-minute movie about 2 and then 3 people going on an adventure. They're on a raft. They go walking through fields. They wear watermelons on their heads. They find a wrestler. They have a fight. Oh, by the way, I love the bit when he comes out in the cardboard and the thing. I love it. Part of me is like, where did they find the time? And the other part of me is going, yeah. I get so angry that the audience aren't clapping immediately. I'm like, he's dressed as a falcon. What the? He's having just applaud. But when he starts high-fiving them, oh, it's just great. So everyone's going, charmed. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is it's a 98-minute movie about an adventure where people go on a raft. So maybe we wrap this up because there's only so much we can discuss. But if there's anything else anybody wants to say, go ahead and say it now or forever hold your peace. I think we can all agree we love this movie.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And I just want to say thank you again for watching it with me because, you know, what it's called the Peanut Butter Falcon. I mean, it could have been about anything.
Do we know which film's going to be next month yet?
Yes, we do. Will, I don't know whether you want to say this or I'm happy to do it as well.
You should, in a big drum roll moment.
That was pathetic, but I loved it. It's The White Tiger, which is a Netflix movie. It came out early this year, and it's directed by Ramin Bahrani, or Bahrani, totally mangled that. It's like 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's based on a book. I don't want to tell you too much, but
It's the Indian movie, White Tiger.
That's correct, Indian movie, yeah.
We've just seen that, yes, yeah.
Oh, you've just seen it with it?
Yeah.
Well, then your league's ahead. And
No,
you're already...
everybody was saying that's very good. You must watch it. You must watch it. It is good, but I'll wait.
You can see why I don't want to say too much about it. You know, that frustrating thing where you just want to go, it's really good, watch it. What's it about? Well, just watch the film. So that's where we're at. Yeah, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, as if that matters to anybody. And we're going to firm up which day it is exactly, but it will be The White Tiger, which similarly to the Peanut Butter Falcon doesn't necessarily indicate that it's about animals. But in the meantime, I'll just say thank you as ever for dropping on by, and thank you again for watching it and listening to me waffle on. It's there were loads of other little tidbits about how it got made, but I think it's a beautiful miracle of a movie. Tell your friends to watch it because it is just one of those good ones.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
So,
Okay.
can I just say thanks again? I know some people answer questions in advance and email them in, and I want to say thank you for doing that because it's so lovely to see them read out, even if you don't necessarily want to say them in the moment. This is a bit of a arena, so I appreciate if you write it first. That's lovely too.
Okay.
Anyway, well, if Ellis and Will are happy, then I'll press the red button and say goodbye. Until next time, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lots of
Bye,
love.
everyone.
Bye
Thank
now.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.